So I feel that this will probably go a lot smoother if I tell it in the style of a story. The first story I'm going to tell is about a man who does two things, and there's kind of like a gap in between, right? So both of the things that he does come out pretty good. And the other man, he also does two things, but they kind of come out one after another, and it just shows that sometimes you need a gap in between. You need that patience. You don't need to have yourself forefront all the time. But so George Miller, it would be the first man. He hasn't made a movie since 2010 with Mad Max Fury Road. He was the creator of the Mad Max franchise. He did like Happy Feet and stuff. But I mean, that was a fantastic film, right? Now, anyone who's a fan of movies would probably say that it was one of the coolest, most practical effects film we had in many years, and it was just for what he accomplished with that film, it was insane, right? And he's got Furiosa coming out soon, so I'm totally just intrigued to see where that story and what he's gonna do with that next film. And now he's done 3,000 Years of Longing, almost 10 years later. And man, this movie was fantastic. I loved it. It's such good storytelling. I mean, it's just a very fun film. A lot of people are giving it hate for some reason. I'm not quite sure why. There's this article from National Review, why 3,000 Years of Longing is unacceptable. And they had said that there was this was a race reckoning. There was a love story of nothing more than extravagant political hackwork. That this film was just, he traded his gift of modern fantasy for pseudo historical fantasy. And it's like, so fucking what? It's all fantasy. It's all like, he can make whatever the fuck he wants. That's all purpose of being a creator and like a filmmaker is so you can make a movie. Like, why the fuck are you saying it's like too fantasy, like too historical? Like, so fucking what? It's still like a fantasy. It's a very well played. It's a well done movie, visually and like acting wise. It's got Tilda Swinton and Idris Elba, and like, man, I can't imagine why someone would say that. It's so stupid. Anyway, then the second man would be Idris Elba. Now, Idris Elba, as much as I love the guy, he did Beast, and he's done now 3,000 Years of Longing. Now, I'm a big fan of him, and I've said in previous videos that I would love for Idris Elba to be James Bond. I think it would be cool. It would have been fantastic, but all right, he's probably not going to get it, whatever. So when I saw the trailer for Beast, I was assuming that it was going to be some crazy, like, monster film of some sort, right? And then, it turns out to be just a fucking lion. And, I'm not going to lie, I had just saw Crawl not that long ago, Sam Raimi's Crawl, and I totally slept on that movie back when it came out, and watching it I was like, man, this movie is fucking cool. And then when I saw the trailer for Beast and stuff, I'm like, wow, there are movies like this already, like Lake Placid, there's whatever spider movies and stuff, are Arachnophobia, and that shit is better than what Beast turned out to be. But I found it funny because my whole thought was, man, Idris Elba's messing up. Like, they should have had it be like a Lion King sequel style story where it's like, years later, as Simba's family, generations of family are trying to adapt with modern life. It would be awesome if all of a sudden, the lion runs into Idris Elba, and then they gotta like fight over their territory because that's what happens when you go to Africa. You might have to battle a lion or two. But subsequently, I had found out that they're making, yesterday I believe that they just released that they're making Mufasa, the Lion King prequel. It's like, come on, guys, are you really like that out of ideas now, where you're gonna make some random ass prequel about Mufasa? Like, man, that's rough, guys. And if it's gonna be in that stupid live action shit, man, that's rough. You should have just went with Beast being like a Lion King sequel prequel. You could have had Timon and Pumbaa like start the film off like a CGI'd Timon and Pumbaa looking all real and shit. It would have been cool. Anyway, so he does Beast, and then he does 3,000 Years of Longing, and it's just like, man, like, I get it, like, you're trying to just be in the movies, but like, man, I guess some actors nowadays are probably just trying to make a buck, because we'll see if movies get better, because I was very shocked that he did that and then did 3,000 Years of Longing. It's like, man, you should have just did 3,000 Years of Longing, because again, this movie was fantastic, right? It stars Tilda Swinton as this scholar neurologist, and she like pretty much narrates the film, and she tells it in the style of a story because she doesn't think you're gonna believe it. And man, it is so fantastic. She goes out to Istanbul and she ends up recovering this bottle, and it's so funny because they're going, like, she's supposed to buy something for someone else, and she ends up buying something for herself. And it's like, damn, girl, you didn't even buy the person you're supposed to buy something for something. You just bought yourself something. It's hilarious. Like I really did enjoy that whole intro sequence. It was pretty funny. And then Idris Elba plays this Djinn, right? Like a genie. And they had marketed it as Aladdin for adults. And god damn it, it is definitely Aladdin for adults because it's pretty much her telling him, like, he comes out, she ends up buying this bottle, she ends up opening the bottle, and he comes out, awesome Djinn genie, black genie man, and, he gives her three wishes, and of course she doesn't want to take the wishes because she's like, look, I've read stories, I know that this never ends well, like, why would I agree to this? And he's like, look, I don't know what you know about Djinn, because where I come from, like, and in Djinn, in the time of Djinn, because there are still Djinn around, it's like, it's fantasy, remember? He's like, normally good things happen, but in my case especially, bad things have happened, which is why I ended up in this bottle. Like, he shouldn't even be in the bottle technically. Like, the first story he tells, because she asks how he got into the bottle and like what's been going on in his life, because he's been trapped in the bottle for 3,000 years. Like, it's a long fucking time. He tells her that King Solomon came to was it the Queen of Sheba, and he was like the lover and like cousin Djinn of Sheba, and then like when she fell in love with King Solomon because he was able to woo her, she pretty much, or she kind of like, she pretty much alienated herself from the Djinn, and then King Solomon ended up encasing him or trapping him in a bottle, and then it pretty much led on. Everybody's wish ended up revolving around him being put into a bottle. So it was like really sad, and the way that the story is told, it's very heartfelt. Like, you really feel for the guy, the Djinn, at the end, and it's just like, damn, for these motherfuckers in that article I was talking about to be saying like, oh, the movie turns out to be where she's like kind of like a booty call, because white women have no self-worth, and it's just like, bro, are you fucking kidding me? Like, man, you guys really took way too little out of this story, like, because it's really fucking good. There's a scene where there's like this like fat dude in like this chamber of furry walls and lube with all these like chunky chicks, and there's like nudity everywhere. It's great. I mean, it's one of those movies you just have to see, like, based off the trailer alone. It's like, it's one of those films that just seems fantasy enough to take you out of the fucking real world, and people are trying to put the real world into these fantasy films, and it's like, why? Like, get the fuck out of here with that. Like, we just want fantasy stuff. Like, there's no reason it has to be politically correct. Like, Jesus. But so at the end of all the stories that the Djinn tells her, the last story is pretty much like low key a love story, because he falls in love with the girl that he is giving the wishes to. She wishes for like infinite knowledge and shit, and ends up being like super smart. It's crazy, and she ends up also like kind of not like falling out of love with him. Like, they end up in this quarrel, and she encases him back in the bottle. And Alita, Tilda Swinton's character, she pretty much falls in love with him. She's like, oh my god, like, you actually have had a rough time. Like, I wish that I could fall in, that we would fall in love. And it's so like, wow, that would never work if this was a swapped race style film. If this was like Bedazzled with Brendan Fraser and Elizabeth Hurley, like, that movie couldn't be done race swapped. If you made like fucking, I don't know, Kevin Hart or someone in the role of Brendan Fraser, like, fuck no, that wouldn't have worked. It would have just been weird. All his wishes would have been just like Brendan Fraser's, where it would have ended up bad, or like nothing really would have came of it. Like, it's like, it was so well done, the fact that they did it with the roles reversed. And a lot of people are talking about the whole like, oh, white women have no worth, and the black man, of course, is the Djinn being trapped by like society. And it's like, nah, bro, like, shut the fuck up with that. It's just this historical story. But I mean, sure, those undertones could be in there because of the times, but that's not what you're supposed to look at first of all. Like, right, you're supposed to look at it from the thought of a story. Like, I think Robin Williams would be damn proud of this film, if I don't say so myself. So I don't, I have really nothing bad to critique the movie about. Besides, I thought it was random that they had sex and that she fell in love with him. But the cool thing is that they, like, as the movie progresses and they end up moving back to New York, because this whole time they're in Istanbul, which is why I also say that it's such a good storytelling, because he's telling you all these stories of different cities and times that the Djinn has been in over a course of 3,000 years. Those whole stories are all taking place in a hotel room. Like, they're just talking in a hotel room, and it's like, fuck yeah, like, the way that he's able to script that out, genius. And so at the end, when she moves the Djinn to New York, you find out that the Djinn is made of like electromagnetic waves and shit, or whatever his magic consists of is electromagnetic. So then, being in New York, all the cell phone towers and shit are like messing with him, and he ends up like pretty much turning into like a charred battery. And she uses her last two wishes, because she gets three. First one was for them to fall in love. She uses her last two wishes to pretty much save and help free the Djinn. And it's just like, damn, like, this is amazing. Like, even though she was so content with her life, it's like all of us are content, and a lot of us don't want to just make decisions that we think and assume will make us happy. Like, it's just something that a lot of people wouldn't want to like say, but at the end of the day, some people are just, that's how they are. And the fact that she used her wishes that selfishly, because it was beautiful. It was a very cool film. So fuck all the haters on talking about like, oh yeah, it makes sense why the Karen of the film, and it's like, Jesus, guys, like, it fits. I feel the film totally fits. But you know what? Check it out for yourself. The one thing I will say was trippy was that last Girls of Fear. There is this like ridiculous point where she's like got her leg doing the shakes, and like Alita has the leg shakes, and it implies that maybe she's like the great descendant of the Djinn, and that would be pretty fucking weird. But I do like how they explain that Djinn sex is bomb, so it's like, oh yeah, of course it's gonna be like badass when you have sex with a Djinn, because you're having sex with like this deity entity thing. So that's why I say Bedazzled would never have worked if Brendan Fraser tried to have sex with Elizabeth Hurley. He was already like a nerd. That's what I say. If you race swapped it, it wouldn't work. It would just be a bad guy asking for all this money and doing all this stuff. And I could totally see a remake of that coming in the future. So I'm just going to say, don't say I didn't warn you. But anyway, this has been Ghost in the Craig. Y'all check it out. 3,000 Years of Longing. I think it was fantastic. 10 out of 10, George Miller. Can't wait to see what you do next, which would, I guess, in a sense, be Furiosa. So we'll see you back in the theater. We'll see you back in the theaters.